Get your black ass off this plane before I slap the ghetto out of you.
Ma'am, I'm the passenger booked for this.
Passenger? You? On a $60 million jet? What did you do, steal someone's booking code? Or did you sleep your way onto the manifest?
I just want to sit down, please.
Sit down where? You stink. I can smell poverty on you from the doorway. Now get off before I drag you off myself.
This is my jet.
Yeah.
And then the flight attendant slapped her across the face. The black woman didn't scream, didn't swing back. She just pressed her hand against her burning cheek and sat there in silence. What happened the next morning made national news, and it cost that airline everything. Man, she really just did that to the wrong person. Let's get into it. Let me take you back to the beginning, about 6 hours before that slap. It was 5:30 in the morning in Alexandria, Virginia. The kind of early where the sky hasn't decided if it's night or day yet. Streetlights are still buzzing, dew sitting on every car windshield in the neighborhood. Inside a brownstone townhouse, a woman sat alone at her kitchen counter. No makeup, eyes heavy, hair tied back in a low ponytail that she hadn't bothered to fix since yesterday. She was wearing a gray cashmere hoodie and joggers. A cup of black coffee sat next to her elbow, barely touched, already going cold. Her name was Olivia Johnson. She was reading emails on her phone, scrolling slowly with her thumb, not really absorbing anything. She'd been in D.C. all week, 5 straight days of meetings, conference calls, contract negotiations, dinners with people she didn't like, and handshakes that left her palms sore. She was tired, in that deep way that sleep alone can't fix. Her phone buzzed. She picked up without looking. "Morning, Ms. Johnson. Just confirming. The jet is fueled and ready at Dulles. Wheels up at 8. That was Derek Moore, her executive assistant. 30 years old, sharp, loyal, the kind of person who remembered everything so she didn't have to. "Thanks, Derek. I'll be there by 7:30. "Do you need me to ride with you to Savannah?" "No. I just want to sit on that plane alone and not talk to anybody for 3 hours. That's all I need." Derek laughed softly. "Understood. I'll have the car waiting at the Savannah terminal." She hung up, took a sip of her cold coffee, made a face,
poured it out in the sink. This is important. Remember what Olivia looks like right now. No blazer, no heels, no diamond earrings, no designer bag with initials stamped on it. Just a tired woman in a hoodie heading to the airport. She looked like anyone. She looked like nobody. And that's exactly the problem. Because there are people in this world who decide what you're worth the second they see your face. Before you open your mouth, before you show your credentials, before you do anything at all. They look at your skin, they look at your clothes, and they make a decision. Brenda Caldwell was one of those people. Now let me tell you about Brenda. 54 years old, senior lead flight attendant for Skyvault Aviation's private charter division. 22 years with the company. Blonde hair always pulled into a tight bun, not a strand loose. The uniform pressed so sharp you could cut paper with the creases. Smile that clicked on and off like a light switch. She had been reassigned to Olivia's jet just 2 weeks ago. New rotation. She'd never met the owner. All she knew from the manifest was one name, Ms. Johnson, and a departure time. That morning, Brenda arrived at Dulles Private Terminal at 6:45. Early, as always. She walked through the jet doing her pre-flight check, adjusting pillows, lining up water bottles so the labels faced forward, folding the cashmere blanket on the main seat into a perfect rectangle. She took pride in this, She believed she was the best at what she did, and in her mind, the best clients, the ones who deserved this level of service, looked a certain way. When the ground crew technician, a young black man, brought the service paperwork to the jet stairs, Brenda took the clipboard without looking at him, didn't say thank you, didn't acknowledge his existence, just waved her hand. Go away.
5 minutes later, Captain Dale Whitfield climbed aboard. White, mid-50s, graying temples. Brenda lit up like a Christmas tree. "Good morning, Captain. Coffee's ready for you. 2 sugars, a splash of cream, just how you like it." Dale nodded, took the cup, and disappeared into the cockpit. Behind Brenda stood Tara Simmons, junior flight attendant, late 20s, quiet. She'd been paired with Brenda for 3 weeks now, and in that time, she'd learned one thing clearly. Brenda had 2 modes. Warm and welcoming for some, cold and suspicious for others. And the dividing line wasn't about manners or money. It was about color. At 7:40, a black sedan pulled up on the tarmac. The rear door opened. Out stepped a woman in a gray hoodie and jeans, carrying one leather laptop bag over her shoulder. Olivia walked toward the jet stairs, squinting slightly against the early morning sun. At the top of those stairs, Brenda Caldwell looked down at her and decided who she was before she took a single step. Olivia climbed the stairs slowly. Her knees ached from sitting in conference rooms all week. Her laptop bag hung off one shoulder. She reached the top step and looked up. Brenda was standing in the doorway, not to the side, in the middle, blocking the entrance with her body like a velvet rope at a nightclub. "Can I help you?" Brenda said. Not "welcome aboard," not "good morning," just "can I help you?" The same tone you'd use with someone who wandered into the wrong building. "I'm Miss Johnson," Olivia said. "I'm booked on this flight." Brenda didn't move. Her eyes traveled down Olivia's body, the hoodie, the jeans, the plain white sneakers, then back up to her face. Something shifted behind her smile. It didn't disappear, but it hardened, like a wet cement setting. "Ms. Johnson," Brenda repeated, slowly, like she was tasting something sour. "Do you have identification?" "I have my booking confirmation." "I need to see a photo ID." Olivia paused. She had flown on her own jet dozens of times. No one had ever asked her for a photo ID at the door. This wasn't a commercial flight. There was no TSA checkpoint. The manifest had one name on it, and it was hers. But she was tired. She didn't want a confrontation at 7:40 in the morning. She pulled out her phone, opened her email, and showed the confirmation screen. Her name, the tail number, today's date. Brenda looked at the phone, looked at Olivia, looked at the phone again. "This could be anyone's phone," she said. "It's my phone, with my name, on my booking." Brenda held the stare for 3 full seconds. Then she stepped aside, barely. Olivia had to turn sideways to squeeze past her. Their shoulders touched, and Brenda pulled back like she'd brushed against something dirty. Olivia walked into the cabin. The jet was beautiful. Cream leather seats, warm wood paneling, soft recessed lighting that made everything glow. A cashmere blanket was folded neatly on the forward seat, the main seat, her seat. A small vase of fresh white roses sat on the side table. A chilled bottle of sparkling water was waiting, label facing forward. Olivia set her bag down and lowered herself into the forward seat. "Excuse me." She looked up. Brenda was standing over her, arms folded. "That seat is reserved." "Reserved for who?" "For the client." "I am the client." Brenda's lips pressed into a thin line. "I was told the owner might be sending a representative today. I think there might be some confusion about seating. The rear cabin is very comfortable. You'd have more privacy back there." There was no rear representative. There was no confusion. The manifest said one passenger, Ms. Johnson, and Olivia was sitting in the seat that had been prepared for exactly that person. But Brenda could not accept it, could not process it. Her brain had already sorted Olivia into a category, and that category did not include owning a $60 million jet. "I'm fine right here," Olivia said quietly. Brenda didn't respond. She turned and walked toward the galley. Her heels clicked hard against the cabin floor, each step louder than necessary, like small punishments against the ground. The jet pushed back from the terminal. Engines spooled up with a low whine that vibrated through the cabin walls. They taxied to the runway. The morning sun cut through the oval windows in long golden bars, falling across the empty seats. Olivia leaned her head back and closed her eyes. Maybe she could sleep. Maybe this flight would be uneventful. Maybe the woman with the frozen smile would leave her alone. She was wrong about all three. 15 minutes after takeoff, Captain Dale Whitfield's voice came through the cabin speaker. Smooth, professional. Cruising altitude, clear skies. Estimated arrival in Savannah, 2 hours and 40 minutes. Olivia opened her laptop, started reviewing emails she'd been too tired to read that morning. Contracts, proposals, status reports. The screen light reflected off her face in the dim cabin. From the galley, she could hear the clink of glass and china. Brenda emerged carrying a tray, a porcelain cup of coffee, a warm croissant wrapped in linen, a small glass bowl of mixed berries, and a hot towel rolled into a perfect cylinder. Steam curled up from the towel like a thin, white ribbon. Brenda walked right past Olivia without a glance. She carried the tray to the cockpit door, knocked softly, and handed it to Captain Dale with a smile so wide it could have been in a toothpaste commercial. "Here you go, Captain. Fresh and hot. Let me know if you need anything at all." She walked back through the cabin, past Olivia again, eyes forward. Like the seat was empty, like the woman sitting in it didn't exist. The scent of warm butter from the croissant trailed behind her, hanging in the air just long enough for Olivia to notice. Olivia said nothing. She watched Brenda pass and returned to her laptop. 10 minutes later, she pressed the call button. The chime sounded, a soft, clear tone. A small amber light above her seat turned on. Brenda was in the galley, 3 meters away, close enough to hear the chime clearly. She looked up at the light, then looked back down at her magazine, turned a page, crossed her legs, took a slow sip of her own water. Olivia waited. 1 minute. 2 minutes. 3. The light stayed on. Brenda didn't move. 5 minutes. Olivia didn't press it again. She just sat there, with her hands folded on the armrest, watching, patient in a way that most people can't manage when they're being deliberately ignored. At the 7-minute mark, Tara appeared from the rear galley. She saw the call light glowing amber, saw Brenda sitting beneath it reading a magazine, and hesitated. Her eyes darted between the light and Brenda's back. Her fingers fidgeted with the hem of her apron. Then Tara walked over to Olivia. "I'm sorry about the wait, ma'am. Can I get you something?" "Just a coffee, please. Black." "Of course. Right away." Tara hurried to the galley. Brenda looked up from her magazine as Tara reached for the coffee pot. The magazine folded shut with a crisp snap. "What are you doing?" Brenda asked. "She pressed the call button 7 minutes ago." "I'll decide when passengers get served on my aircraft, not you." Tara froze. Her hand hovered over the coffee cup. She could feel Brenda's stare on the side of her face like heat from an open flame. "She asked for a coffee, Brenda, that's all." "I know what she asked for." Brenda leaned in close. Her voice dropped to a whisper, but the kind of whisper that's designed to travel, the kind that wants to be overheard. "That woman does not belong on this plane." I don't know who she called or whose name she borrowed, but I've been doing this for 22 years, and I know exactly what our clients look like. She is not one of them. Not even close. Tara said nothing. She poured the coffee with unsteady hands,
placed it on a saucer, and brought it to Olivia. The cup rattled faintly against the porcelain as she set it down. "Here you go, ma'am. I'm sorry for the delay." Olivia looked at Tara, saw the red flush creeping up from her collar to her jawline, saw the way her eyes were saying something her mouth couldn't form into words, saw a young woman caught between knowing what was right and fearing what it would cost her. "Thank you," Olivia said softly. Tara nodded once, quickly, and walked away, fast, like she was afraid of being caught showing kindness to the wrong person. Olivia picked up the coffee. It was lukewarm. She drank it anyway. The bitter taste sat on her tongue as she set the cup back down. Then she pulled out her phone, opened the voice memo app, pressed the red circle, and slipped the phone into her hoodie pocket, screen facing inward. The recording indicator blinked once and disappeared beneath the fabric. No one saw it, no one heard it. But from that moment on, every word spoken in that cabin was being captured. 20 minutes later, Brenda walked through the cabin doing what she called a routine check. She straightened a pillow that didn't need straightening, adjusted a window shade that was already down. Then she stopped at Olivia's row. She stood there, looking down at Olivia's laptop screen, spreadsheets, company logos, dense paragraphs of legal language, numbers with many zeros. Brenda let out a small laugh. Not a real laugh, just a sharp puff of air through her nose, the sound of someone who finds you ridiculous. She turned to Tara, who was folding napkins in the rear galley, and said, just loud enough for the words to float back through the cabin like smoke, "Playing businesswoman today. Probably Googling what a spreadsheet even means." Olivia's fingers stopped on the keyboard. Her jaw tightened. 1 second. 2 seconds. 3. She breathed out slowly through her nose. Then she kept typing. Steady. Controlled. Every keystroke is deliberate. In her hoodie pocket, the red light kept blinking. The phone heard everything. About 90 minutes into the flight, things got worse. Olivia had been quiet the entire time, hadn't complained, hadn't raised her voice, hadn't pressed the call button again after the first time it was ignored for 7 minutes. She just sat in her seat, worked on her laptop, and minded her own business. That should have been the end of it. A rude flight attendant, a bad experience. Something to report later and move on from. But Brenda wasn't finished. See, people like Brenda don't stop when they're ignored. Silence doesn't satisfy them. They need a reaction. They need submission. They need the person they've decided is beneath them to confirm it, to shrink, to leave, to break. And Olivia hadn't done any of those things. So Brenda came back. She appeared at Olivia's row holding a clipboard. Not the same clipboard from before. This one looked like she'd pulled it from a drawer somewhere and put it together just for this moment. She stood in the aisle with one hand on her hip, the other tapping the clipboard against her thigh. "Ma'am, I need to conduct a security inspection of your carry-on luggage." Olivia looked up from her laptop. "Excuse me?" "Security protocol. For unverified passengers, we're required to inspect all personal belongings before landing." Olivia closed her laptop slowly, set it on the seat beside her. "There's no such protocol on a private charter," she said. "I've flown private for years. No one has ever searched my bag." "Well, this is my aircraft, and I'm responsible for safety on board. I need to see inside your bag." "No." The word was quiet, simple, complete. Brenda's nostrils flared, just slightly, like a horse that's been tugged back by the reins and doesn't like it. "Ma'am, if you refuse to cooperate with a safety inspection, I will have to notify the captain and request an emergency diversion. You'll be met by airport security on the ground. Is that what you want?" Olivia looked at Brenda. studying her face the way you study a document with errors in it, carefully, thoroughly, without emotion. Go ahead. Call the captain. Brenda didn't call the captain. Instead, she reached up to the overhead bin above Olivia's seat. Her fingers found the latch. She pulled it open and grabbed the handle of Olivia's leather laptop bag, the only piece of luggage she'd brought. "Don't touch my belongings," Olivia said. Brenda pulled the bag halfway out of the bin. "I said, don't touch my bag." Brenda didn't stop. She yanked the bag fully out of the bin and held it against her chest. The zipper jingled. A pin rolled out of the side pocket and bounced off the cabin floor with a tiny plastic click. Olivia stood up. In the narrow aisle of the Gulf Stream, there was barely room for one person to stand comfortably. Now there were two, face to face, close enough to feel each other's breath. Olivia was taller than Brenda by 2 inches. She looked down at her with calm, dark eyes. "Put my bag back. Now." Brenda didn't put the bag back. She held it tighter. Her knuckles whitened around the leather strap. Her chin lifted. That smile, the one she wore like armor, was gone. In its place was something raw and honest. Contempt. Pure, unfiltered contempt. "You don't give me orders," Brenda hissed. "Not on this plane. Not anywhere." "I'm asking you one more time. Put my bag down." Brenda stepped closer. Their faces were inches apart now. Close enough that Olivia could see the caked foundation cracking along the lines beside Brenda's mouth, could smell the coffee on her breath, could see the tiny vein pulsing at her temple. "Listen to me," Brenda whispered. The whisper was worse than shouting. It was controlled, deliberate. Each word pressed out between clenched teeth like something squeezed through a crack. "I don't know who let you on this plane. I don't care whose name is on that booking. People like you do not belong in spaces like this. You never have. You never will. So sit down, shut your mouth, or I will have this plane landed and your black ass dragged out in handcuffs. Do you understand me?" The cabin was silent. The engines hummed. Somewhere behind them, Tara stood frozen in the galley doorway, one hand gripping the curtain, knuckles white. Olivia didn't blink, didn't flinch, didn't move back even 1 inch. "I want your name and employee ID number," she said. "I will be filing a formal complaint the moment we land." Something snapped in Brenda. Maybe it was the calmness. Maybe it was the fact that Olivia wouldn't bend. Maybe it was the realization that this black woman was looking her in the eye without a single trace of fear, and that enraged her more than anything else. Olivia reached past Brenda to take her bag from the overhead bin. Her arm extended upward, brushing Brenda's shoulder. Brenda grabbed Olivia's wrist, hard. Her fingers dug into the skin, pressing against the bone. Olivia pulled her arm free. And then Brenda hit her. Open palm, full swing, across the left side of Olivia's face. The sound was sharp and ugly. It bounced off the leather seats and the polished wood panels and hung in the recycled air like a living thing. Olivia's head snapped to the right. Her hand shot up to her cheek. She could feel her own heartbeat in her face, throbbing, hot, electric. The skin burned like someone had pressed a clothes iron against it. The cabin was frozen. Tara's mouth hung open. Her eyes were wet. Captain Dale Whitfield cracked the cockpit door and peered out, face white. Brenda stood there, breathing hard. Her right hand was still raised. Her chest was heaving. She looked like she had just done something righteous. 3 seconds of silence. Then Olivia lowered her hand from her cheek. She straightened up. She looked at Brenda, not with anger, not with tears, not with shock, with something else. Something Brenda had never seen directed at her before. Certainty.
That, Olivia said quietly, was the worst decision of your entire life. Brenda's chin jutted forward. What are you going to do? Call your manager? Olivia didn't answer. She sat down, smoothed her hoodie, folded her hands. Captain Dale stepped out of the cockpit. His face was flushed. He looked from Olivia to Brenda and back. What's going on here? Brenda spoke first, immediately, before anyone else could open their mouth. This passenger has been disruptive and aggressive since boarding. She refused a safety inspection and became physically confrontational. I had to defend myself. The lie was so smooth, so practiced, that it sounded like the truth. Dale looked at Olivia. Her cheek was red, visibly red. The outline of fingers was starting to form on her skin, like a photograph developing in slow motion.
Ma'am, Dale said carefully, are you all right? Your flight attendant just struck me across the face, Olivia said. Her voice was steady, almost frighteningly steady. I want this incident formally logged. I want her full name and badge number. Dale swallowed. He looked at Brenda. Brenda stared back at him with the confidence of a woman who had gotten away with things like this before. 3 complaints, 3 buried files.
3 times the company had chosen her over the people she mistreated. Dale chose the path of least resistance, the same path the company had always chosen. Okay, let's calm down. We'll be on the ground in about an hour. We can sort this out at the terminal. Ms. Johnson, I'd ask you to please remain seated for the rest of the flight. He didn't reprimand Brenda, didn't ask Tara what she saw, didn't check Olivia's face. He just retreated into the cockpit and closed the door. Brenda smoothed her uniform, adjusted her gold wing pin, and walked back to the galley without a single word. Her heels clicked against the floor, steady, unhurried, the sound of someone who believed she had won. Olivia sat alone. The handprint on her cheek was deepening from pink to red. She reached into her hoodie pocket, pulled out her phone. The voice memo app was still running. The red timer showed 46 minutes and counting.
She opened her text messages, found Derek Moore's name, typed 6 words. Call the lawyers. Skyvault is done. She pressed send. Then she placed the phone face down on the armrest, leaned her head back against the seat, and stared at the ceiling. Outside the oval window, the clouds rolled past like a slow white river. The sun was fully up now. The sky was the kind of blue that looks almost fake, too bright, too perfect for a morning like this.
Inside the cabin, Olivia sat with her hands folded in her lap, cheek burning, heart calm.
Yo, I gotta stop here for a sec because she got slapped and her first move was to send a text? Not cry, not scream, not swing back. A text. That's not patience. That's a whole different level of scary calm. Brenda has no idea what's coming.
The landing gear hit the tarmac in Savannah with a soft double thump. The engines wound down. Morning light poured through every window, warm and golden, like the world outside had no idea what had just happened inside this cabin. Brenda was already up, straightening her uniform, checking her hair in the reflection of the galley window. She tugged her gold wing pin 0.5 millimeter to the left, making sure it was perfectly centered. She looked like a woman preparing to greet a dignitary, composed, polished, untouchable. Olivia stayed in her seat. She hadn't moved since sending that text. Her laptop was closed. Her hands were still folded in her lap. The handprint on her cheek had darkened into something you couldn't miss, a reddish-purple shadow with the faint outline of 4 fingers pressed into her skin like a stamp.
The jet rolled to a stop. Captain Dale opened the cockpit door and stepped out without looking at anyone. He busied himself with paperwork on the center console, avoiding eye contact the way people do when they know they failed and don't want to be reminded. Brenda moved to the cabin door. She released a handle and pushed it open. Warm Georgia air rushed in, humid, thick, carrying the smell of jet fuel and fresh-cut grass from the airfield. She looked out at the tarmac and stopped. 2 black SUVs were parked at the base of the stairs. Not airport shuttles, not rental cars. 2 identical black Cadillac Escalades with tinted windows and a logo printed on both front doors in clean silver lettering. Pinnacle Aerospace Holdings. Brenda stared at the logo. She didn't recognize it. Not yet. It was just a name to her. 2 words and a symbol that meant nothing. But then the doors of the first SUV opened. A young black man in a tailored navy suit stepped out. He was holding a leather portfolio in one hand and a phone in the other. Behind him, 2 older men emerged from the second vehicle, both in dark suits, both carrying briefcases. One had silver reading glasses pushed up on his forehead. The other had a legal pad already open. They weren't smiling. The young man looked up at the jet stairs and straightened his tie. That was Derek Moore. Olivia appeared at the cabin door. She stepped out slowly, one hand on the railing. The sunlight caught the mark on her cheek, and from 20 feet away, Derek could see it. His jaw tightened. His hand squeezed the leather portfolio so hard the stitching creased. "Ms. Johnson." His voice was controlled, but there was something underneath it, a thin wire of fury wrapped in professionalism. "The board has been briefed. Legal is ready. Dr. Carver and Mr. Adams are here from outside counsel." He gestured to the 2 men behind him. They nodded. No handshakes. No small talk. This was not a greeting. This was a deployment. Olivia walked down the stairs. Each step was slow, measured. She reached the tarmac and stood in the morning sun, the heat pressing against her face where the slap still throbbed. Behind her, Brenda appeared at the top of the stairs. She had followed Olivia out, probably out of habit, probably to give the kind of rehearsed farewell she gave every passenger. "Thank you for flying with us. Have a wonderful day." But the words died before they reached her mouth. She looked at Derek in his suit, at the 2 lawyers with their briefcases, at the SUVs with the logo. All 3 men were looking at Olivia, not like a passenger, not like a client, but like a commanding officer who had just returned from the front line. Brenda's smile flickered. Her hand found the railing and gripped it. "Wait," she said. Her voice had changed. The authority was gone. It was thinner now, uncertain. You're Olivia Johnson? Olivia Johnson?" Olivia stopped at the bottom of the stairs. She turned around slowly, looked up at Brenda standing above her in that pressed navy uniform, with those gold wings pinned to her chest. "I'm the woman you just slapped," Olivia said, "on a jet that I own, operated by a company that I pay, while wearing a uniform that my money bought." Brenda's face went white. Not pale, white. Like every drop of blood had drained from her head to her feet in 1 second. Her mouth opened, closed, opened again. Nothing came out. Olivia held her gaze for 3 more seconds. Then she turned and walked toward the SUV. Derek opened the rear door for her. She climbed in. The door closed with a heavy, final thud. Inside the vehicle, the air conditioning was cold and sharp. The leather seat was cool against her back. Derek sat beside her. The 2 lawyers were in the second row. "How bad?" Derek asked quietly. Olivia pulled down the sun visor.
looked at her cheek in the small mirror. The handprint was fully formed now, dark and vivid against her skin. "Bad enough," she said. She flipped the visor back up. Then she pulled out her phone and dialed a number she knew by heart. It rang twice. "Olivia?" The voice on the other end was male, older, slightly out of breath, like he'd been expecting this call and dreading it at the same time.
"Olivia, I just saw Derek's message. What happened? Are you Grant?" Olivia's voice was level. No anger, no trembling, just facts. "Your senior flight attendant on my aircraft racially profiled me. She denied me service. She fabricated a security protocol to search my belongings, and she struck me across the face in front of your crew." Silence on the line, the kind of silence that has weight. "I have the full incident recorded. I have a witness, your junior attendant, who I expect will cooperate. And I have a handprint on my face that your company put there." More silence. She could hear Grant Ellison breathing. "The $200 million contract is terminated, effective now. Your team will receive formal notice within the hour, and the management contract for my aircraft is also done. I want your crew off my jet by the end of the day." She paused, let it land. "Get ahead of this, Grant, because I promise you, I will." She hung up, placed the phone on her knee, looked straight ahead through the tinted windshield at the bright Savannah sky. Derek didn't speak. The lawyers didn't speak. The SUV pulled away from the tarmac in silence. On the jet stairs behind them, Brenda Caldwell stood alone. Her hand was still on the railing. Her knees were shaking. The warm Georgia breeze moved through her hair, loosening the tight bun she'd pinned so carefully that morning. She didn't move for a long time. Grant Ellison sat in his corner office in Dallas, staring at his phone like it had just bitten him. The call lasted less than 2 minutes. Olivia hadn't yelled, hadn't threatened. She stated what happened, stated what would happen next, and hung up. That was worse than yelling. Yelling means someone is still emotional, still reachable. Olivia's voice had none of that. It was the voice of someone who had already made every decision and was now just informing you of the results. Grant's hands were trembling when he called an emergency board meeting. By 9 p.m., 12 people sat around a conference table on the 32nd floor of Skyvault headquarters. The air conditioning hummed, but the room felt airless. No one touched the coffee. No one made eye contact. Grant laid it out. The $200 million defense subcontract with Pinnacle Aerospace, the single largest deal in Skyvault's pipeline, the one they built their entire fiscal year around, was dead. Not suspended, terminated. On top of that, Pinnacle had pulled the management contract for the jet. When a client like Olivia Johnson publicly fires you, other clients notice. Other clients start making phone calls. The CFO ran the numbers. Total exposure, contract losses, stock decline, reputational damage, litigation could exceed $300 million because of one slap. Grant called Olivia 4 times that night. She didn't pick up once. He sent an email at 11:15, 3 desperate paragraphs that read like a ransom note. He offered to fire Brenda immediately, offered to fly to Savannah personally, offered whatever it takes. Her legal team responded the next morning. 1 sentence. Ms. Johnson's decision is final. All further communication should be directed to outside counsel. Meanwhile, Brenda Caldwell was falling apart. Skyvault suspended her within 6 hours. Security walked her out of the crew lounge at Dulles with her badge still clipped to her uniform. She carried her belongings in a clear plastic bag, the same kind they give you at a police station. Human Resources pulled her file that afternoon. What they found made the room go silent. 3 prior complaints, all filed by passengers of color over 4 years. One woman reported Brenda refused to serve her on a transatlantic flight. Another described being called sweetheart in a tone that made her skin crawl. A third wrote a 3-page letter about being humiliated in front of her children. All 3 had been reviewed by the same supervisor, a man since retired. All 3 marked resolved, no action required. All 3 were buried in a folder no one opened until today. 3 chances, 3 warnings, 3 women who told the truth and were ignored. That night, Brenda got Olivia's number from the booking manifest. Called at 9:40. Olivia didn't answer. Brenda left a voicemail, 4 minutes long, started with crying, moved to apologizing, then shifted into something uglier. I didn't know who she was. I was just following my instincts. She didn't look like... How was I supposed to know? This isn't fair to me. Not once did Brenda say, I was wrong. Her only defense was, I didn't know she was important, which tells you everything. What Brenda was really saying was, if Olivia had been nobody, the slap would have been fine. 2 days later, Tara Simmons made a phone call. She called Olivia's legal team, voice shaking but words clear. I saw everything, from boarding to the moment she was struck. I'll provide a full written statement. When asked why she didn't intervene on the plane, Tara went quiet for a long time. Because I was afraid. Brenda has seniority. She's ended careers before. She paused. But I'm more afraid of what happens if I stay quiet. 1 week after the slap, the story broke. A journalist at Aerowatch Daily, a niche aviation trade publication, received an anonymous tip. Within 48 hours, she confirmed every detail. Olivia's legal team provided a statement. Tara Simmons agreed to be quoted. The FAA confirmed it was aware of the incident. The headline landed like a bomb. Skyvault Aviation loses $200 million contract after flight attendant assaults black CEO on her own private jet. Within hours, every major outlet picked it up. CNN ran it at noon. MSNBC led with it at 5. The Washington Post published a feature by evening. The Root called it the most expensive slap in American aviation history. And then the audio leaked. Olivia's legal team released a 45-second clip from the voice memo. That was all it took. Brenda's voice, clear, unmistakable. Playing businesswoman today, probably Googling what a spreadsheet even means. A gap. Engine hum. Then Brenda again, closer now. People like you do not belong in spaces like this. You never have. You never will. Then the slap. Sharp. Loud. Followed by silence. The clip went up at 2 p.m. on a Tuesday. By midnight, 400,000 shares. By Wednesday morning, over 2 million. Hashtag Justice for Olivia trended nationally for 3 days. Internationally for 2. Skyvault's stock dropped 18% by Friday. 3 VIP charter clients quietly canceled their contracts within the week. Institutional investors started calling. Board members started whispering about exits. Olivia released a public statement. 4 sentences. No dramatics, no press conference. I boarded my own aircraft for a routine flight. I was subjected to racial discrimination, verbal abuse, and physical assault by a Skyvault Aviation employee. I have provided all evidence to the appropriate authorities. I evaluate companies not by their products, but by their people. Skyvault failed that test. 4 sentences. More than enough. Now the legal machinery moved. Olivia filed criminal assault charges against Brenda in Chatham County, Georgia, the jurisdiction where the plane landed.
Brenda was arrested at her apartment in Arlington on a Thursday afternoon. 2 U.S. Marshals knocked on her door.
She answered in sweatpants, mascara smudged, hair unwashed. They cuffed her hands in front and walked her to an unmarked sedan. Booked at Chatham County Detention Center, fingerprinted, photographed. The mugshot leaked within hours. It always does. Face swollen from crying, eyes empty. The gold wingpin was gone. She posted bail that night, $50,000. Her sister paid it. But criminal charges were only the beginning. Pinnacle filed a civil lawsuit against Skyvault the following Monday.
Racial discrimination. Assault by an employee acting within scope of employment. Negligent supervision. The key evidence? Those 3 buried complaints. Proof the company knew Brenda was a liability and looked away. The FAA opened a formal investigation into Skyvault's crew training and complaint handling procedures. Inspectors arrived at headquarters with boxes and hard drives. They stayed 3 days. The criminal trial lasted 4 days. The prosecution played the full 46-minute recording. The jury heard everything. Every dismissive comment, every whispered slur, every moment Olivia chose silence instead of rage. And then the slap, so loud through the courtroom speakers that 2 jurors flinched. Tara testified for 90 minutes. She described the boarding dispute, the ignored call button, the whispered insults, the fabricated security check, the assault. Calm, specific, unwavering. When the defense asked why she didn't stop Brenda, Tara looked at the jury and said, "The company taught me she was untouchable. 3 complaints, 0 consequences. What was I supposed to believe?" Captain Dale Whitfield took the stand. Confirmed he heard the commotion, saw Olivia's red cheek, and chose not to intervene beyond asking both parties to stay calm. When asked why he didn't ground Brenda or file an immediate report, he stared at his hands. "I thought it would be handled on the ground." The jury deliberated for 3 hours. Guilty. All counts. Assault. Violation of federal anti-discrimination statutes in commercial aviation. Brenda stood motionless as the verdict was read. Didn't cry. Didn't speak. Just stared at the table like a woman watching her life collapse, frame by frame. Sentencing came 2 weeks later. 12 months probation. 200 hours of community service, mandatory completion of a certified bias and racial sensitivity program, and a permanent notation on her FAA record, banning her from working in commercial aviation for life. She walked out of the courthouse into a wall of cameras, said nothing. Her sister drove her away in a gray minivan with a cracked windshield. The civil case was settled 3 months after that. Skyvault paid Pinnacle $15 million. They also agreed to a court-monitored overhaul of their entire charter division, new hiring protocols, mandatory bias training for all flight crew, an independent review board for discrimination complaints, and quarterly compliance reports filed with the court for 5 years. Then the final domino fell. Skyvault's board held a closed-door vote on Wednesday evening. The result was unanimous. Grant Ellison was forced to resign as CEO. His resignation letter leaked the next morning. It always leaks. 2 pages of corporate nothing. Transition. New chapter. Confident in the company's future. Not one mention of Olivia. Not one mention of Brenda. Not one word about the slap that burned his empire down. The internet tore it apart within hours. The board appointed an interim CEO the same week. Her name was Sandra Davis. She was the first black woman to lead Skyvault Aviation in the company's 40-year history. Her first official act was a public apology. Not the corporate kind, written by lawyers in a conference room, a real one. She is named Olivia. She named what happened. She called it exactly what it was. What happened on that aircraft was racist. It was violent. And it was enabled by a system that chose silence over accountability. That system ends today. So where are they now? Olivia Johnson took the $200 million contract and awarded it to Crestline Aerosystems, a small aerospace firm based in Atlanta, minority-owned, 12 employees at the time. That contract changed everything. Within 18 months, Crestline grew from 12 to over 200 employees. They opened a second facility. They hired engineers, project managers, machinists, many of them young black professionals who had never seen a company that looked like them win at that level. When a reporter asked Olivia why she chose Crestline, she said, "They were qualified, they were hungry, and no one was giving them a chance." Sound familiar? Brenda Caldwell never flew again. The FAA notation made sure of that. No airline, no charter company would touch her. She took a retail job in a strip mall outside Richmond. Name tag, folding shirts, 8 hours under fluorescent lights that buzzed like trapped insects. Her name became a case study. 3 major airlines added the Skyvault incident to their crew training programs. New flight attendants now watch a video about what happened on that Gulf Stream, about assumptions, bias, and what it costs when you decide someone doesn't belong. Brenda is in that video. She will be forever. Tara Simmons left Skyvault after the trial. A regional airline in Charlotte hired her after reading about her testimony. Within 2 years, promoted to cabin crew lead. She built an internal advocacy program for junior attendants, a confidential system to flag misconduct without fear of retaliation. She named it Speak Up. 3 other airlines adopted it. Captain Dale Whitfield retired quietly. No press release, no farewell. He moved to a lake house in North Carolina. People who knew him said he carried the guilt like a stone in his pocket, always there, never spoken about. Grant Ellison vanished from public life. No company hired him. No board invited him. He became the answer to a question no CEO wants to hear. What happens when you ignore the warnings? Skyvault survived. Barely. The losses forced them to cut their charter division by 40%. But under Sandra Davis, things shifted. The new policies weren't just paper, they were enforced. The Independent Review Board rejected its first cover-up within 3 months. 2 senior managers were fired for retaliating against a junior employee who filed a bias report. 2 years later, Skyvault won back a small contract with Pinnacle. Not the big one, a fraction of what they lost. But it meant Olivia was watching. It meant the changes were real. Olivia was invited to speak at the National Business Aviation Association conference. 800 people, standing room only. She walked to the podium in a black dress. No notes. She talked about her mother, a night shift nurse in Southeast D.C., who came home every morning smelling like hospital soap and exhaustion. A woman who never owned a jet or sat in a boardroom, but a woman who taught her daughter one thing. You don't treat people well because of who they might be. You treat people well because of who you are. Then she said the line that would be quoted everywhere for years. I didn't cancel that contract because I was offended. I canceled it. Because if that's how your people treat someone when they don't know who she is, then I know exactly who your company is.
800 people stood up. Okay, so, yeah. This story's fiction. But be honest. You know somebody who's been treated like that. Maybe it's you. And they didn't have a $200 million card to pull. Most people just gotta swallow it. And that part ain't fiction at all. If you were in Olivia's seat and you didn't have 200 million in leverage, what would you have done? Drop it in the comments. If this story made you feel something, hit that like button and share it with someone who needs to hear it. Subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss a story where justice gets the last word. Because here's what I want you to take with you. Power doesn't always look the way people expect. It doesn't always wear a suit. It doesn't always announce itself. Sometimes, power looks like a tired woman in a gray hoodie, sitting quietly in a seat that belongs to her, waiting for the world to catch up. Remember that.